We decided to take a short trip to the other side of the Rockies to Steamboat Springs. I gave myself the challenge to record video with my iPhone X, my GoPro Hero 7 Black, and my Sony A7Riii. You'll notice down in the corner of each clip I've written which camera I was using to record video in. I thought this would be a super interesting experiment. All three of those cameras record at 1080p and 4K, so it was kind of a fun experiment. After checking into our hotel, we followed the signs up to Steamboat Lake. Ended up being about a half-hour drive, and we got there just as the ranger station closed, so we just kept our car parked there and took the trail down to the lake and the campground. I wasn't sure how far we would end up going, so I only took the GoPro and my phone and walked the dog. The views were amazing. We had such incredible weather. They had snow the week before and snow after we left. There was a point that we saw some sandhill cranes, and so Steve stopped to take some pictures. It was pretty exciting. They're very large birds. I'm used to the smaller great blue herons that we have here. The trail led us over a creek and through some meadows until we got down to the lake. One of the things I noticed on the GoPro Hero 7 Black is that if I wanted to record in 4K, it was always at the wide setting. I can only switch to linear or zoom in at all if I was in a different setting like 1080p. So that was a little bit disappointing, but I wanted to try out the 4K capability, so I just went with it. And you can see how smooth it is. I'm just walking here. This Hero 7 Black has pretty good stabilization internally. About a mile down the trail, we finally got to the lake edge, and there really wasn't many people there. This is the off-season. Summer is for Steamboat Springs. So we just kind of wandered around the lake, saw some fisher people, and eventually looked up and saw an osprey. And what I noticed was my GoPro was just too wide, and so the osprey was just a tiny dot in the sky. So I switched over to the iPhone X and zoomed in, and you can still see the osprey's pretty small in the frame. But Steve managed to get a few photos with his Canon camera. We headed back into Steamboat to get ourselves all settled in to our iconic Rabbit Ears Motel. The plan was to check out the nearby Fish Creek Falls that everyone talks about. So the next morning we got up pretty early and headed out to Fish Creek Falls. I got a little bit of footage with my GoPro Hero 7 Black. The day was gorgeous and there was very few people there. We wandered around at both of the overlooks at the upper and down at the lower part at the bridge before deciding to head on up the trail even farther. Here, though, the trail got pretty wet and, in my opinion, a little bit treacherous. We had to walk through these streams of water and mud. See, Bailey's paws are covered in mud. And we hiked over snow fields, and if you stepped off that trail a little bit, you sunk quite a ways into the snow. So this is a little of the trail that we were on, and so I just filmed all this with my iPhone X. I had my camera bag on my back, but it was just too much with the dog and the trail. But look at the view, just incredible. Look at all the aspens with their bright new spring leaves. About a mile and a half up the trail and 1,600-foot elevation gain, we came to the bridge. Bailey was such a sport with her little muddy paws. Aww. We stopped and had a snack and looked at the scenery around us. I had a nice flat area to take the GoPro out, and so I captured a little of what we saw. You could see the snowpack, and we'd heard from many hikers that continuing on up to the upper falls was treacherous, so we turned around and went back down the trail. I did finally take my Sony A7R III out and record these images of Bailey. You can see the befores and the afters. I just really thought the yellow flowers and the towering aspens above her were just so beautiful. Back at the Rabbit Ears Motel, we looked out over the Yampa River and saw the trail and decided after a short rest that we would go take a walk. And it was such a lovely day. It's nice and lush on the west slope of the Rocky Mountains, and I mostly got footage with my iPhone 10. I didn't even take my big camera out, just wanted to take a little bit of a wander along the riverside with the pupper. I am impressed on how stabilized the iPhone 10 is. Here I am just regular walking on the trail, and it's really not doing too bad. For our last day in Steamboat Springs, we decided to head back up to Fish Creek Falls. Here, there was very few people again that morning, and so I felt comfortable setting up my tripod with the Sony A7R III to record some video, and I think it turned out really well, especially being able to use my zoom lens and not have all wide shots anymore. We didn't walk the rest of the trail at the falls. We had to hit the road back into the Front Range. So back in the car we go, and it's just so easy to use the iPhone 10 while we're driving along that I use that for most of the footage here. We did find a wildlife refuge that we can go nice and slow in. Oh, there's a pronghorn that Bailey really liked looking out the window. So I had my Sony A7R III with me to take some still images, and I handheld it for these recordings of these birds swimming in funny circles, and for some of these white-tailed prairie dogs. Overall, I was really happy with the performance of all three video cameras, the iPhone 10, the GoPro Hero 7 Black, and the Sony A7R III. They all had their pluses and minuses. What do you think? Could you have told the difference if I hadn't written it down in the corner? Do you record video? What do you use? I'd love to know. Be sure to write it down in the comments, and don't forget to paw the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And special thanks to my guy Steve of denvercool.com for the use of all of your beautiful still images for this video. Like I always say, you're the best.